WVTC Radio Detroit. You can find us on Facebook, YouTube, our website, www.wvtcradio.com, or download our WVTC app from the Play Store for Android users and the App Store for iPhone users.
This is
Soulful Inspiration.
It's your girl, Nikki Jones. This will be an hour to feed your soul with music and laughter, information and inspiration. You're listening to WVTC
Detroit.
All designed with you in mind. So sit back, relax, and get ready to join the conversation with me,
Nikki Jones. Soulful Inspiration.
Inspirations. Yes, sir. Welcome to Soulful Inspirations. I am your girl, Nikki Jones. So excited tonight. We're going to have a wonderful time tonight. I promise you are going to enjoy this show immensely. If you are any type of fan of gospel music, you're going to love this show. We're going to have a great time tonight. And we have a wonderful guest as well. How are you doing, Pastor D, my beautiful co-host? How you doing tonight?
I'm wonderful.
You're right. Listen, you are looking kind of cute there with your off-white on, with your cream. You know what I'm saying?
We do what we do.
You're so coordinated.
We do what we do.
You're so coordinated.
I got a whole bunch of years of collection, so it's easy to coordinate.
Amen. Well, amen. I'm trying to be somewhat like you, but I don't want to have like that many clothes because you know we can go overboard.
Well, I know that. That's why we constantly purging. We got to purge.
Got to keep purging.
In the spirit and in the natural and in your closet.
Oh yeah.
Purge, honey. Purge.
Got to keep purging.
Purge.
Yes. You're listening to us on WVTC Detroit. This is the Stellar Award-winning station. I just wanted to put that out there if you didn't know. Yes, this station has won a Stellar Award for 2022, and we are looking forward to 2023 as well. Come on now. We want the Lord to bless us one more again.
Stella.
One more again, Lord. Do it again.
Stella.
We're going to have a great time tonight talking about gospel music. It is Black History Month. It is the month of February. This is the month where we actually do it together as a corporate body, as a people, as a country, as a nation. We celebrate Black history. Now, we all know that we celebrate Black history all the time. Every day, every single day. Because what? We're part of American history. So you're talking about American history, you're talking about Black history pretty much. Now, I'm not even going to go down that road.
Well,
just going to say it that way, and that's the way it is. Amen. Praise God. That's the way it is. We want to thank you tonight. If you're listening, we want you to we want you to share, subscribe, follow me on Facebook, follow WVTC Detroit on Facebook. Listen, you're going to see some type of programming that will enhance your life, either inspirationally, emotionally, spiritually, even in community wise. If you have information that you need to know about the community, I promise you there is something on WVTC that will suit your fancy. Okay, there's a lot going on.
And it will be done in excellence.
Yes.
Just so you know.
Just so you know. In case you didn't know, now you know.
Yeah, it's not in the basement.
No,
we're in the basement.
No, we're not in anybody's basement.
This is in excellence.
This is in excellence. We have a wonderful setup here, and for those of you who might be thinking about starting your own podcast, this is a great place to start.
This is the place.
It's a great place to start. Just putting that out there, and you can have more information about that if you just contact us. Somebody will return your call, return your email, and give you some information on that as well. And that was for free. You know, we ain't even planning to say that.
No charge.
That's how we do.
No charge. It's free.
It's no charge.
Yeah,
it's no charge. Listen, so we're going to talk about gospel music tonight. I wanted to begin this month talking about who we all consider the father of gospel music. And if you don't know who that is, it is Dr. Thomas A. Dorsey. And so we cannot really talk about gospel music without at least starting from the beginning. Why? Because in the beginning,
come on,
was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God.
And it was made flesh.
It was made flesh
and it dwelt among us.
Yes, that's John 1:1 for those who did not know. And in the beginning, God created heaven and earth, and the earth was without form and void. And darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters.
And what did God say?
And God said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters. No, and God said, let there be light. That was the first thing he said.
And what did we just learn? We just learned light is order.
Light is
That's
order.
so good. That's so good. That's so good.
You can't have light and darkness without an understanding that you have to have one or the other.
One or the other.
You got to make a distinction.
Yes.
So you don't know what light is unless you have darkness. And likewise, you don't know what darkness is unless you've had light. Huh?
So it's going to be pretty good tonight. Y'all buckle your seatbelts.
Buckles your seatbelt. We got a wonderful guest. Oh my gosh, I can't wait to talk to her. But before we do that, we want to introduce to some and present to others the one and only Dr. Thomas A. Dorsey. This is a clip of him singing. This is going to be wonderful. It's going to bless you.
Yeah.
Like a ship is tossed and driven, battered by an angry sea. Now when the storms of life are raging and the fury falls on me, then I wonder what I have done that makes this race so hard to run. Then I say to myself, take courage, for the Lord will make a way somehow. Church, the Lord will make a way somehow. When beneath the cross I bow, now he will take away his sorrow. Just let him have your burdens now. But Lord, that down so heavy, and that weight is rolled upon my brow. But there's a sweet relief in knowing, oh, the Lord will make a way somehow. You know I try to do my best in service, try to live the best I can. Now when I choose to do the right thing, evil's present on every hand. I said to my soul, be patient. Let the tears come on my brow. But I say still to my soul, be patient. Oh, the Lord will make a way somehow. Now, often there's misunderstanding. Now, out of all that good I do, then I go to friends for consolation, and I find them complaining too. Now so many nights I pay in prayer, just wondering what this day is gonna bring. But I say to my soul, don't worry, for the Lord will make a way somehow. Did you know the Lord will make a way somehow? When beneath the cross you bow, he'll take away every sorrow. So let him have your burdens now. When the load back down so heavy, the weight is shown upon my brow. There's a sweet relief in knowing the Lord will make a
Better sing that song.
Oh, he sung that.
You better sing that song.
I think he felt that in his sha-na-na. Okay, I think he felt that one. That's, especially at the end, he took his time. Okay, did you hear him take his time
He didn't
and
rush.
sing those last notes? Okay,
He
no,
didn't
he didn't rush that at all. He did
rush.
not rush that at all. I just love it. It just blessed my soul to hear him actually singing his song. That is just amazing. It's amazing. So we are going to talk to a woman tonight who is an author of a book about Thomas A. Dorsey. And I want to introduce her to you. I want to read her bio. Her name is Dr. Catherine Baker Kemp. She is a product of Chicago Public Schools. She holds degrees from DePaul University, Chicago State University, and Northern Illinois University, and Newburgh Theological Seminary. Her professional careers include education, counseling, and music ministry. She currently serves as an associate minister at Memorial Missionary Baptist Church in Chicago, working in Christian education with a weekly online Bible class, music, and prison ministry. Presently, she teaches on the faculty of the Gospel Music Workshop of America, the National Association of Gospel Choirs and Choruses, and serves with the Pastoral Advisory Council of the National Convention of Gospel Choirs and Choruses. She's written several books. Okay, so one of the books is about the gospel music industry in America. And she's also written a book specifically about Thomas A. Dorsey. She participates in programs related to gospel music and Thomas A. Dorsey. She's written articles for Christianity Today, American National Biography, and Library of Congress. She's conducted workshops, presentations, and appeared on gospel podcasts and programs. And in 2022, Catherine participated in the documentary on Thomas Dorsey on Channel 11 and PBS Chicago Stories. She interviewed with Trustee Jones of Pilgrim Baptist Church of a Swedish TV station that is preparing a documentary on Thomas Dorsey to air in 2023. Please welcome with me, with Pastor D, this beautiful soul. Her name is Dr. Catherine Baker Kemp. Dr. Kemp, how are you tonight?
Welcome. I'm blessed. Hello, thank you. Praise God for you and the wonderful ministry that you have. It's a pleasure to be on your program.
It is a pleasure to have you, Dr. Kemp. It is a pleasure to have you. Listen, I want to pick your brain tonight. I know you have so much that you could say. You've written a book about him, so I know that you have a whole lot to say. First of all, let's just talk about you and let's talk about your journey in writing this book and what brought you to the thought pattern to actually do this.
I had no idea that I was going to write gospel music. I had no idea that God was going to have me write gospel music. When I wanted to be a writer, started as early as 5th grade writing poems. I never had any idea that I would write religious materials. Wow. But God has a way of his will becoming known if you listen to him and follow him. And what he did was put me flat on my back with cancer in 2010.
Okay.
And at that time, I surrendered. I had been told many times there was a call on my life, and I had refused to accept the ministerial call because I felt I was doing enough without following that. But I surrendered. I said, okay, God, if you spare my life, I'll serve you for the rest of my life. So the very first book I wrote was not about Dr. Dorsey. It was about the Gospel Music Workshop of America, which I was a part of. And I was very, very appreciative, not only of the teaching, but of the music and of the history. So I wanted to write about that in Dr. Cleveland. And of course, you can't write about gospel music without Thomas A. Dorsey.
Yes.
Uh,
Absolutely.
the Lord has, in his providence, had it so fixed that I knew the daughter of Dr. Dorsey without knowing I knew her. And
Wow.
as
Wow.
I talked
Wow.
about this book, and she asked me, who was it about? And, I said, Thomas Dorsey and late James Cleveland. And that's when I found out she was his daughter.
Wow.
So
Wow.
she read the book and she came back and told me, this book is not about my father. I said, no, it's about the Gospel Music Workshop of America. I said, but I will write a book about your father. And through her, God had me write this book about his legacy.
Wow.
That's
That
how it
is
came about.
amazing. That's amazing. That's amazing.
Wow.
And you know what? It correlates with a lot of the history that we've been talking about and learning about in terms of hymns and how hymns, the writers of different hymns went through so many different things that made them or that prompted them or inspired them to write the hymns that they've written. And so just as, trauma and distress and discouragement came to some of the writers of the hymns that we've discussed over the last 3 months, that it prompted them to write this experience that you had in 2010 with the cancer. Obviously, prompted you to go ahead and surrender to the will of God and write this particular book about him, not even knowing that you had already had a wonderful connection with his daughter, his actual daughter. So was she part
Providence.
of the Gospel Music Workshop of
No,
America?
it was a professional relationship. I don't know if she
Wow.
wants me to divulge her personal information, but it was a professional relationship. And I had known her for several years without really knowing who she was.
Wow.
Wow. Look at God. Wow.
God's providence.
It is. It is definitely providence. Definitely providence. So, in writing this book, I would like to know what was the most surprising fact that you learned about Mr. Dorsey while you were writing this book, or that you learned about gospel music as you were writing this book?
Probably the number of lives he touched, the
Mm,
legacy that he left. Uh, Many people don't realize that James Cleveland started as a child under his tutelage at his church at Pilgrim. They
wow.
don't
Wow.
realize that he taught and wrote the first song James Cleveland ever sung, put him on a
Wow.
platform at 8 years of age, and had him perform it. No one really knows that James Cleveland got his training in the National Convention of Gospel Choirs and Choruses. And it was only after he had been there a number of years and had to give up his position as youth leader because of their rules and regulations that the Gospel Music Workshop of America was born.
Wow.
And there are many other people. We know of his relationship with Sally Martin,
Yes.
Dolores Barrett Campbell, Mahalia Jackson. Uh,
Yes.
there's just so many people that he mentored. Della Reese at one time was a part of his convention. I have a
Wow.
picture of her in the early days singing with them. So many people came through them. Uh, the the joy of that book was the opportunity to interview people who had firsthand knowledge of his grace, of his wisdom, and of his talent.
Yes. Yes.
His niece, who is a famous musician in her own right, lived with him for a number of years, and she gave me a wealth of information. Dr. Jeremiah Wright gave me a wealth of
Yes.
information.
Yes.
Uh, I just had a chance to talk with pastors and singers and composers and members of the convention. It was just so wonderful to hear the history and to know
What
Yes.
how
a
great
legacy.
this man was and how humbly he walked.
Wow.
I
That's
agree
such a
with that. I
legacy.
agree with that. I wonder sometimes what kind of spirit that he walked in. I know he was a humble man, but what kind of I don't know what the word is. What kind of fortitude did it take for him to go through what he went through, like when he wrote when he had unfortunately experienced the death of his wife and the death of his son a day later or days later, and then writing Precious Lord. But there's so much that could be said about someone going through something like that. But what did you learn about that experience that we might not know about him going through and writing Precious Lord?
He almost gave up on God. He was angry with God, and he was bitter with God. And a little bit of that bitterness, I believe, stayed with him until the day that he died. There were periods in time that he was very melancholy when he thought about it. An earlier experience that might have helped prepare him for this was his time in Villa Rica, Georgia, which was his home. His father was a Morehouse graduate and a teacher. His mother owned land, her family owned land. But because of the way things are in the South, she was unable to keep the taxes up and lost the land. His father was forced to work as a sharecropper on his wife's property. His father, being a proud man, could not do that. So the family left and went to Atlanta. He was ridiculed in Atlanta for being a country boy, for his speech, for his clothes. He dropped out of school and started working in the red light district. That's where he first picked up his jazz experience. Of course, he later went back to school. He played for church and blues at the same time. And when he decided to leave and come north, he settled in Gary before he moved to Chicago. And eventually he was able to, he had to go to school to get his papers here in Chicago. He could not play without being a licensed musician. So he went through all of that. And I just learned through his history how much he had done. He worked in the steel mills during the day and went to school at night.
Wow. So he had to have a license. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but back then they had to have a license to be a musician and play in a church. Did y'all hear that? In a club. Okay.
Remember, he was at that time still in the jazz.
I'm making that point. Even the jazz world, you had to have a license. So you could not just walk in off the street and because you can play 2-3 chords, I'm stuck right there, Dr. Kemp. I'm stuck right there because musicians today, they would not make it if they had to prove what they know and how they know it. If they had to go get a license, I don't think they would go through, I don't think, because, they play now by the number system and things like that, but if they had to actually go back and learn music, we wouldn't have some of the musicians that are prominent today. We wouldn't even know who they are because they wouldn't have a license. That's just blowing my mind. Just that right there.
Many cannot play hymns. That's one of the reasons we don't have hymns in a lot of churches.
Can't play them because
they don't know them. They don't know them, and they
can't read music.
But that's the problem, though. They're not interested in learning them. A lot of, if they could play them, it would be great, but because there's no affinity for hymns amongst the younger generations, a lot of them, some of them do. Now, I do know some young people who know hymns just as much as I do and love them just as much as I do, but that's not a majority. The majority of the people in that age range, probably under 30, under 35 even sometimes, they're not really caring much about hymns. And so you don't get them to have the kind of respect.
But would you connect that directly to the fact that the church does not embrace hymns anymore? Because if the church would embrace hymns, then it would force the musicians to learn hymns.
Now, there are some that do.
I'm just saying, generally speaking.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Because hymns are not sang in churches. Now, there, other denominations have a much greater respect for hymns.
Yes.
But I think apostolic, Pentecostal churches that are more charismatic, we don't do as many hymns. So therefore, it's not required of the musicians to know how to play hymns.
This is true. Miss Kemp, I'm sorry, Dr. Kemp, how has your relationship with music changed after writing about Dr. Dorsey? Did it change at all? Like from the time before you started to after you did all of the research and you actually wrote the book, what changed in terms of your view or your relationship with music in general, even gospel music?
That's a good question. I've never had that question asked before. I had been playing since the age of 5, and I had
Wow.
been playing in churches since the age of 13. So
Wow.
I was able to play hymns, anthems, and gospel songs I learned by ear because
Mm-hmm.
that's pretty much the way you learn them with
Yeah.
the choir. You picked it up and you were able to learn it that way. I had a deeper appreciation for the legacy
Mm-hmm.
of gospel music, of the institutions that were built, of his convention, and of the gospel music workshop when I understood how they work to organize singers and musicians and composers so that they would be recognized, so
Mm-hmm.
they could get credentials.
Mm.
And
Wow.
I just hope that the younger musicians could learn more from the older musicians so that there could be a bridge to our sacred music experience, all the
Mm-hmm.
way
Yes,
back
ma'am.
to spirituals, which were
Mm-hmm.
our first hymns.
Yes, ma'am.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
ma'am. That's amazing. Pastor D, did you have any questions?
No, I was just thinking about as she was talking how, we used to sing Negro spirituals, even if we only did it for Black History Month or for a
Mm-hmm.
special program,
Mm-hmm.
but I venture to say if you were to ask a young person today, sing Lift Every Voice and sing, they just never heard of it. So as I listen to Dr. Kemp, I'm encouraged to try to make sure that we pass on a lot of this legacy to the next generation. If we don't, if not us, then who?
Yeah. Yeah.
you
I,
know.
I am encouraged by colleges and universities, historically Black colleges and universities who keep those types of things going. So
Yeah.
they keep
Yeah.
choirs going.
Yeah.
I was encouraged by Tennessee, I think it's Tennessee State, who won a Grammy with Kiera Sheard. On the Grammys last night or Sunday night because they did some gospel music, and it was a choir.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm
Yeah.
encouraged by
Yeah.
things like that, and that the fact that they're keeping alive some of those Negro spirituals and some of the hymns as well. They're redoing them, which is great. Even if you redo it, I mean, that's how I learned some of the ones that I did learn, is because somebody took the time to do a different version of it, but they kept it. They kept the core of it together. They kept the foundation of it together.
Yeah.
So, Dr. Kemp, what has encouraged you to keep going in terms of writing about music and what you see today? Like, who are you listening to today, and who are your influences today to keep going in terms of gospel music?
There are very
Wow.
few influences today in contemporary gospel that
Crickets.
I listen to.
Yes, ma'am.
Malcolm Williams is probably not that well known, but he's part of the Gospel Music Workshop of America,
Yes, ma'am.
a young composer from Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's a young group, Zion, out of Chicago. But one of the things that impressed me with Malcolm is that the recording companies tried to get him to change his style of music. And he told them, my success has been with church choirs. That's who I want to write for. And he would
Mm-hmm.
not change. So I admire young composers who are able to do music in more or less more than one genre.
Yes,
Although
ma'am.
gospel music is a genre, when you look at our music, you look at the whole of sacred music of Black people, and you look
Mm-hmm.
at our experience in it all. And if we don't connect it all, then we'll never, as you said, bring that bridge forward. You can't
Mm-hmm.
burn down the bridge you walked over on. And that's
Mm-hmm.
one of the
Amen.
things I admire about the Jewish religion, because the book of Psalms is still sung in their
Yes, ma'am.
churches. That's their hymn
Mm-hmm.
book. So
Mm-hmm.
why
Yes,
have
ma'am.
we thrown away our hymn book? Why do we as Black people try to negate the ancestors, the slave songs, the plantation songs, the sorrow songs that brought us. There was a theology in their singing that showed that they understood that in spite of the sorrow, in spite of the oppression, black
Yes.
people had a hope. And
Yes.
a lot
And
of the
that's the
modern
word. That's the
songs
word.
don't have that hope. Those
Yeah.
lyrics don't have hope.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
sound good, they have a good beat, but where's God in there? Where's Jesus in there? So
Yeah.
if I find a song with God and Jesus, I love it.
And Dr. Kemp, I think that part of the issue is that many churches don't teach that the Psalms are hymns. So people don't know that, And even as you were talking, I thought about the Reverend James Moore when you talk about taking a stand and wanting to stay in gospel. And I remember when he testified that he was in the room ready to sign contracts and they wanted him to exclude Jesus from his songs. And he said, I won't do it. I won't do it. And so you have people that maybe they'll never become a millionaire, but they've stood, on the foundation of Jesus Christ. And I think that that's so important. I think that's so important.
Absolutely.
They won't sell out. They won't sell out.
Absolutely. So I found something that I wanted to ask you, and I don't know, you may or may not know this, Dr. Kemp, but I read somewhere that when Dr. Dorsey was going through a bout of depression, I believe this was not long after his wife died, not long after he wrote the song "Precious Lord," and then experienced some other, I think, some other tragedies or whatnot, and he began to be really depressed for a couple of years. That he went to a service one time and that a live serpent was pulled from his throat. This is something that I read. Sometimes there's things on on the internet, and people talk, people put things out there. So I don't know if it's true or not, but I wanted to ask you, did you hear of any type of conversion that he had where he felt like something was pulled from his throat, or that he had a conversion experience in a church service or anything like that?
Yes, that's included in my book, Anointed to Sing the Gospel.
Oh, okay.
That happened before his first wife died.
Okay.
She was the dressmaker for Ma Rainey. That's
Okay.
where he made his money. That's who he married, his first wife. Um, she knew that he was called. He was a
Mm-hmm.
man of God. And he had tried at one point to stop doing um, the jazz and the blues. The first time, his first conversion in Chicago was, I think, in 1921 when he went to a Baptist convention and he heard someone sing and he was just thrilled.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, that time, also, Lucy Campbell and others were listening to him, and his hymns were getting in the gospel pearls. So he
Mm-hmm.
quit his job and just played for a small church in Chicago, but he couldn't make the salary he needed. His wife started working for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
So he went back to the secular field.
Mm-hmm.
But he was playing for Ma Rainey on the road. And now this is not, I'm going to get to the one that you're talking about.
Okay.
But as he was sitting at the piano, he became paralyzed. He could see the keys, but he couldn't play.
Mm.
And that was the time that his wife said, you really need to stop doing this. And she took him to Bishop Haley. That's the person you're talking about. And Bishop
Mm.
Haley told him that he was not doing what God wanted him to do. And as he prayed for him, the story is that he pulled the serpent from his throat. Now, that was all during the time his first wife was alive. His
Mm.
second conversion came after her death. That again was a Baptist convention, and he heard Willie Ford from St.
Mhm.
Louis singing one of his songs, and she had the people in the aisles just falling out.
Wow.
He was able to make some type of deal with the musicians who ran the recordings, session or the book session of the convention, got his songs out and made a little bit of money. So that was his second conversion. But after his wife died, he said he was no longer going to play secular music. However, every once in a while, they would ask him to come back and he would just call it helping the boys out. But basically, after 1932, the death of his first wife and son, he just completely stopped playing secular music. As God had told him, this is not where I want you.
Wow. I never knew he played for Ma Rainey.
I didn't know that either.
Never knew he played for Ma Rainey. I'm in school.
He
School
wrote for her.
He wrote for her, you say?
Oh, yeah. His name is on some of her compositions. I have included that in my book, so you can actually see it. She has a museum in Columbus, Georgia, and I was able to visit it and saw some of his materials.
Wow. So tell us where we can find your books and where we can, how we can support you, where you are on social media. Where are you? On social media, where we can find your books in stores? Are they in Christian bookstores? Are they on Amazon?
They are on Amazon, but they're difficult to find on Amazon anymore. They were in Christian bookstores. Most of them closed during the COVID.
Yes,
they were at Black museums. Most of them, I don't know what I should say. They were at Black museums. I don't know where they are now because I'm not getting any feedback from them. And at one point, I could tell you that they were all around the country. Basically, the best way to get them now is from my website.
Okay.
And it is www.joyfulnoisepress.com.
Okay.
I'm on Facebook under Joyful Noise Press. And my email is joyfulnoise121@gmail.com.
Okay. All right. Okay. So we got it on the screen so people can see.
Exciting.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely.
I could just listen. I could listen to this. I could listen to these stories because it's our history, you know. We can't go forward until we understand where we came from and all that, all that involves and entails. And it's just exciting.
It is.
To know.
It is. It's exciting to know.
I think with our study of hymns, one of the things that I've taken away is that there's an oil, the press, you got to press those olives to get that oil. And so many, even you doctor, to see, that you went through a period of pressing where God presses that oil. And, if I'm just honest, sometimes I'm like, okay, I don't want to be pressed.
It's not comfortable. There's nothing pretty about being pressed.
No, but the other side of the press is really where this joy, the joyful noise and everything else comes and the hymns come, so that I heard her say many times, I surrendered. I surrendered.
Yes.
So
yes. And that's, like you were saying, that there's nothing pretty about being pressed. There's nothing pretty about being crushed, because that's what it really is. The olives are crushed. They're actually crushed.
And it's not the first press where you really get the results. Okay. So
they got to be pressed a few times.
About that third time is when you get to the real.
Yeah, it's a certain level of pressure applied, and it's done several times before all of the oil, or the best oil of the olive,
is
comes
about that
out.
third press.
It's about that third one. It's about that third one. I am so glad that you were able to join us tonight.
Yes.
And I want people to be able to go to your website, order these books. One is called Make a Joyful Noise. That is about the Gospel Music Workshop of America. Another one is called Anointed to Sing the Gospel. That one is specifically about Dr. Dorsey. And then another one called Sacred Song. And I'm not sure what is Sacred Song about. Can you tell us what that one's about?
That is about our survival as a people through music. And I trace our sacred music from its inception in 1619 to about 2015.
Wow.
Through the churches and through the various types of music.
It was our salvation.
And a correction on that email is joyfulnoise121@gmail.com.
Okay.
Music has really been the salvation of the African American people. I mean, if we didn't have it,
Absolutely.
we wouldn't be here.
But the thing about that is, if we didn't have it, the world wouldn't have it.
Exactly.
Because there's, even though there were other people who wrote hymns and things like that, and there were people who were of European descent or whatever, and they wrote hymns as well, but gospel music specifically came from us, and it came from our experiences, it came from our troubles, it came from our peril, and people passing away and passing messages through music, and the Underground Railroad and all those different songs, and those things. There was a lot of pain associated with the songs that came through gospel music, even with the blues. I mean, when you think about the blues, we were talking about it before. The blues is a lot of painful stories that we've put to music so that we can remember the good times and the bad times. So I'm just excited. I'm thankful for Dr. Kemp coming on with us. What we want to kind of segue just a little bit into, because we're going to wrap up in a little while, but I wanted to get your take on how the Hawkins family has impacted gospel music, because I know they were part of your, I'm sure they were part of your writings when you were writing about gospel music as well. So tell me what your experience is, or what your experience was in discovering things that you may or may not have known about the Hawkins family: Edwin Hawkins, Walter Hawkins, Tremaine Hawkins, and Lynette Hawkins Stevens, and just that whole family. And what was it, Love Alive 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Just so much that they were, that they did. Walter Hawkins and the family, Edwin Hawkins singers, and so on and so forth. What has been your experience with the Hawkins movement and their impact on gospel music?
I just want to go back for a moment,
Sure.
and agree with what you said about our foundation. Our spirituals, Black music is the genre, is the
Yes,
genesis of
ma'am.
all music in America.
Yes,
All
ma'am.
music comes from our music. I just want to say that. As far
Yes,
as the
ma'am.
Hawkins are concerned, not having a California background, I only know
That
about
would be
them
me.
through their association with James Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
One of the reasons that the Gospel Music Workshop of America was formed was to bring in a more contemporary sound in music. And then he was criticized because the choirs were getting too large, they unwieldy. When you had a choir to transport, that was a lot of money. So
Yes,
people were
ma'am.
going to groups. And when Edwin Hawkins bridged the music field with Oh Happy Days and crossed over,
That
brought
was the
over a
Mm-hmm.
one.
whole new market, because
That was
music
the one.
became an industry. It stopped
Yes.
being a ministry about 1955.
Mm-hmm.
In the earlier days, they would sell our music for a dime. They would have recordings. Savoy was the first one who recorded Cleveland, but before that, there were singing evangelists, and you would have the religious songs and the blues songs all on the same record. You
Mm.
could go from blues, and Thomas
Wow.
Dorsey himself said blues was just a good man having a bad day. So they
Wow.
were all on the same record. But with Edwin Hawkins, you got not only a new group of people interested in our sound, you got a group of people who could harmonize in
Mm-hmm.
small numbers with the
Mm.
same effect for a
Yes.
larger profit. And the I don't know how to put this. Let me put it the best way I know how.
Yes, ma'am.
Church music, in a church setting, is supposed to take you to God. It's supposed
Mm-hmm.
to elevate you to a place. It looks up and
Yes,
it
ma'am.
looks out. The music goes up to God and goes out to the people. When you get to Edward Hawkins and the new crossover generation of music, it's not so much for the gospel message as it is for a good feeling about yourself. It becomes more inspirational.
Mm-hmm.
And in becoming inspirational, a lot of people now consider themselves spiritual without
Yes.
having any real connection. to a church or a fellowship or even membership or accepting Christ as their Savior.
Mm-hmm.
So that is my only concern with that movement. Now, he has influenced a lot of people. He shared his music, his talent. But after you feel good, where is your relationship with God?
Come on now.
Yeah, it was just inspirational. They considered it just to be inspirational. It had no connection to salvation, just inspirational. You feel inspired at that moment.
Some of their well, I can say Walter Hawkins when he broke off from Edwin Hawkins Singers, and he did the Hawkins Walter Hawkins and the Hawkins Family album. He did that was Jesus Christ is the Way. That was
that was after he started pastoring.
Right. That was after he had gone to.
That was when I was in the
she
Bay
was
Area.
in California.
I was there when Oh Happy Day came out. I was there when the church. It almost makes you think of what was the gospel family group when they tried to go. They crossed over and the Christian community shut them out. The dad Staple Singers. You remember when the Staple Singers, when they kind of drifted away from their straight gospel and church shut them down, shut them out. Walter Hawkins, when he came along and he did Oh Happy Day, the young people were like all in, but it was kind of choppy, but it caught on. So, it's just like when you look at the difference between when Walter Hawkins did Oh Happy Day, fast forward to when Kurt Franklin, when he came out with Stomp, whole nother shift,
Yeah.
So they just keep pushing the envelope, but I don't know what I know that Walter Hawkins, when he did his music, and Edwin, I think Edwin broke off from with Walter because Walter was the standard, and then Edwin did his thing, and so I think when he started pastoring, his music, you could kind of tell his
Changed.
music shifted a little bit,
Yeah, so Edwin started, to my knowledge, Edwin started in 1968. And then from there, that's when, he was trying to get a choir from a Kojic church to the conference in DC. And then so that's when Walter was singing with them and they started raising money. And then kind of Walter, figured out, well, there might be something to this gospel music thing, know.
Yeah.
And then, and Oh Happy Day, I mean, literally, Oh Happy Day is still one of the most requested songs in the world. And I say that because I actually did travel to Italy for a Christmas concert. I was with a group, I don't know if people know this, but people in Italy will have concerts during the Christmas season and they will recruit groups from the States to come and sing for them. So I was part of one of those groups and we toured northern Italy for like 30 days just singing. And part of the contract was we had to sing, every concert had to end with Oh Happy Day.
Yeah.
And every concert we had to sing Jesus, Oh What a Wonderful Child, and Oh Happy Day. Now we could sing any other songs we wanted to sing before that, but the end of the concert had to be Oh Happy Day. It was part of the contract we signed. And that was the first time normally that people would actually stand up because they didn't really understand what we were singing. If they didn't speak English, they didn't understand what we were singing before. But once we got to Oh Happy Day,
they knew that part.
Everybody was singing. Or once we got to Jesus, Oh What a Wonderful Child, everybody was on their feet, and singing along with us and clapping and moving and so forth. So, that in itself is huge. I mean, it's major, but at the same time, though, the Hawkins, I believe, ushered in a contemporary sound, like you were saying, and because they kind of fused some jazz chords. Like when you think about Strange, the song Strange, My Burden's Lighter, Strange, My Pathway Brighter, they fused some gospel lyrics sort of kind of with the jazz sound, and it was just that contemporary sound that came. And then from there, Daryl Coley was part of the Hawkins Singers. A lot of people don't know that, but he was part of that, and so many others came through. And I just think that the Hawkins family gave us something fresh And like you were saying, because he began to pastor, Walter began to pastor, that he and he did earn his doctorate in divinity. And so, I think he began to understand that the message of Jesus Christ was just as important and more important even than just the music itself. But because of his being a musician, he had to do it the way he would receive it. I'm guessing. I don't know. But so many wonderful songs came from that, changed and like I said, Jesus Christ is the way. And you think about Marvelous, and you think about Thank You, Thank You, Lord, for all you've done for me. Just a whole plethora of songs that have just rang out over the years that people still sing today. That music is timeless.
It is.
Some of that music is definitely timeless. Dr. Kemp, thank you so much. Would you have any last words that you would like to share with us before we close out tonight?
Just continue doing what you're doing.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Sharing the gospel message, sharing what God has given you. I thank God for you. And we need more of this because people don't necessarily attend church anymore, but they will listen to music. They will listen to podcasts. They will listen to internet stations. And what you're doing is spreading the gospel message. So thank you.
Amen.
God bless
Amen.
you. May you continue
Thank
to
you
be
so much
fruitful and
for your
multiply.
enlightenment tonight. Thank you so much for your enlightenment and your information. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
We want all of you who are listening to share this broadcast, share this YouTube video, share this Facebook post. We want people to be aware of the blessings that God has given us through Dr. Kemp. These 3 wonderful books. Go to www.joyfulnoisepress.com. And go and purchase these books. Learn about our history with music. Learn about it without just going on Wikipedia, because Wikipedia is not going to give you firsthand knowledge the way that Dr. Kemp has been able to interview different people and pour from her heart and experience gospel music with the people who were related even to Thomas A. Dorsey and just being able to interview so many wonderful people. Thank you, Dr. Kemp, for being with us tonight. I so appreciate you, and we will have you back again. I think we want to have you back again and just get your perspective on some things that we're doing in terms of music, and just and hear how you feel about the situation, what we're going through right now with all this all this music and how it's changing, how it's evolving. I just think sometimes we go too far with our evolution. So thank you so much again to our audience. You've been listening to us on WTC Detroit. This is Soulful Inspirations. I'm your girl, Nikki Jones. It's been real and fun. We're going to go out tonight on the Walter Hawkins, on a video of the Hawkins family singing one of my favorite songs, Until I Found the Lord. And if we have found him, guess what? You can find him too. He's not lost. You might be lost, but the Lord is not lost. So we want you to find him just like we found him. And when you do, I promise you, it will be the best decision you have ever made in your life. Thank you for listening to us tonight. Thank you, Dr. Kemp, again. And we bless you tonight. And we will see you next Tuesday at 8:00 p.m. Thank you. Good evening.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
see, the Lord, He understands our moans. Yes, He does. Yes, He does. So I began to moan, and I moaned. I moaned all night long. I moaned and I moaned. Come on now. My soul.
Listening to Soulful Inspiration.
We're so glad you hung out with us today. We're here every Tuesday at 8 p.m. on WVTC Detroit, If you'd like to partner with us or sponsor a show with your business, send us an email at tntsoulllc@gmail.com, or you can call us at 313-570-8280. I'm your girl,
Nikki Jones.
The views and opinions expressed on the previous broadcast are those of the authors and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of WVTC Radio Detroit, its advertisers, or affiliates.
We are WVTC Detroit. What it is. We're gospel music, preaching, teaching, inspiration, encouragement, news, and guest interviews. We are WVTC. We're winning victories through Christ. WVTC Detroit. All up in the community. That's who we are. What it is.
WVTC Gospel Radio Detroit thanks the following supporters for their generous gifts of support to keep this station and these broadcasts coming your way. God bless you, we thank you, and we love you. This is WVTC Gospel Radio Detroit.
The views and opinions expressed on the previous broadcast are those of the authors and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of WVTC Radio Detroit, its advertisers, or affiliates.
You're listening to WVTC Gospel Radio Detroit, and we're flowing in the Spirit.